Writing.
Govind, you can also put it in the group that this log can be directly used. So,
Yeah.
so since we're recording in this one, so just wanted to give you a heads up on the log. So this is how a typical log looks like, and you can put the client name, information, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and individual group number in the group if need be, start date, end date, how many hours are paid, how many hours are pro bono. And paid can be that if say, I have a conversation with Jyoti that I consider as coaching, and she also knows it is coaching. There's a contract, we know what it is. We have explained what coaching is all about. That's when it is a valid conversation. So, and sometimes you can also say, if I am having a chemistry call with you, chemistry call can also be considered as a conversation that you can add here, provided the client comes up as a regular client. It's not like you have 100 client calls, and out of all 100, you put just simply the chemistry call and say 100 is done. That doesn't work. So when the client comes for a longer conversation or a longer intervention, you can add the additional 1 hour that you put as a chemistry call, wherein you're discussing what is coaching all about, what is the topic that they want to bring in, what is the overall contract, what are subjects that they will try to work with, how do they know what's their measure of success. All that is included in the chemistry call. Right. And when you're doing it with a, say, peer coach, all peer coaching hours are considered as paid. And
Yeah.
yeah, so there's a possibility that you can do all of your 100 hours as paid. You don't need to do some of them as pro bono. All of your 100 hours are paid. Right.
Yeah.
But you can do a max you can consider doing a maximum of around 25, I think, pro bono conversations with people. And paid can be in different ways. Paid can be monetary payment, even say $1 or $10 sometimes is even considered as paid. 1 rupee or 10 rupees also is considered as paid. Any bartering that happens, say possibly if somebody gives you a gift saying, for coaching me 1 hour, 2 hours, I'll give you like a book of, you like books, I'll give you a book. Possibly I'll take you out for lunch, possibly coffee. Anything around that essentially becomes a bartering system. And that is okay for you to be considered as paid hours.
Okay, like Sunil, when we book a peer-to-peer session,
Mm-hmm.
it normally we keep it like say for 1.5 hours,
Mm-hmm.
in which for 45 minutes I'm the coachee and for 45 minutes I'm the coach.
Mm-hmm.
So what we write is 45 minutes, so it's normally
45.
1 hour that what's the time
45.
we are permitted?
So
But till what hour? How much should a normal coaching session should be for?
there's like, at least from the ICF side, in terms of whatever you're submitting for your recording, 20 minutes is your bare minimum requirement for the submission spectra. And for the submission spectra, maximum is 1 hour. But for you, there need not be a maximum of saying all sessions need to finish in 1 hour. If some clients, if you're working with them for 1.5 hours, that's also considered still okay. But after that, it should be like, it should not become like all topics are brought today itself. So then the client may not really be able to make progress. So ideally, 1 hour, 1 hour, 15 minutes is a great place to close. And if you do it again and again and again, so a lot of the conversations ends by around 45 to 50 minutes. You don't really need to push just because the timeline is there for 90 minutes or say 1 hour. So in the 90 minutes, if both of you are taking turns, it will be considered 45 minutes for you and 45 minutes for the other person.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so sometimes if it's gone 53 minutes, 54 minutes, I have put in 1 hour.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's been say 1 hour, 7 minutes. Also, I put it as 1 hour and not something else. So somewhere it'll sort of balance it out. But if you're doing it for 15 minutes, you don't put it as 1 hour. So that's the space there is. And also the other aspect, I think one of the first tips from my end is don't coach for number of hours, because it's a cardinal sin that you're doing for yourself.
Mhm.
Don't coach for 100 hours. Don't keep it saying, I will finish by 100 hours. 100 hours is your journey from start to, a point where you are saying, from now on, ICF will accept my recordings, right? So don't keep 100 as your target and close that after 100.
Mhm.
100 is just another milestone in your journey forward. And,
Yeah.
the more experimentation that you're able to do in your 100 hours, or 500 hours or 2,500 hours for that matter, the better it gets. Your aim should not be about the 100 hours, but your aim should be about, am I getting better in each and every session? Give yourself possibly 10 hour, 10 hour, 10 hour windows if you're doing 100 hours. So first 10 hours, am I able to hit the contract properly? Second 10 hours, am I able to make, reflection happen, awareness happen? The next 30 hours, am I able to come and actually do the first two things proper, also move on to, say, possibly getting towards the closure end. So the grow model, so goals, reflection, opportunities, and way forward. Are we talking about what next after awareness in terms of action and possibly from action to accountability and closure? So
Mhm.
by around 40, 45-ish hours, you are able to handle an entire conversation properly. So that's a 50% of your work done in terms of your ACC hours. So every hour that you're learning to be a great coach or a good coach or whatever is your definition of the space you want to be, consider that your steps forward. And each 10
Mhm.
hours have an assessment, self-assessment, possibly have a mentor, possibly have another peer give feedback, possibly also get into groups like this one with tribe of coaches, wherein you're getting somewhere working with somebody of say even 20 hours plus from you. So they have a better experience than you. And then secondly, start with a learner's mindset, saying it's okay that I don't get everything proper the first time around. It's okay. But as long as you know that you're getting better at some of the things that you want to start getting better at,
Mhm.
it's fantastic. And also, one of the things that you should always get to is how do you build a proper contract? And for you to build a proper contract, I think you should have a proper rapport with the person coming alongside. And for you to have a proper rapport, I think a good chemistry call is a very important one. I think that's where our first conversation with Jyoti started, saying, what do you do in a chemistry call? Say, me and Govind, we have possibly met one or two times online, but never in a coaching session. I know something about Govind, but I don't know anything about Govind at all. So for me, Govind's a very completely new person, new identity. So when you go in as a first time coach or a new coach, or even when I go in as a experienced coach, the first session I am going to only learn about the client and the person on the other side. I'm not even given them a nomenclature. This person is a client. So in all chemistry calls, you may not know whether they really want to come, they don't want to come, you don't know. So the first thing is that try and build a rapport with them, wherein you're trying to understand who they are as a person, where they come from, where are you, what do you do, what got you into coaching, what are your interests, where, possibly again, you tell your space of introduction. I've seen so many coaches give a one-line introduction. I am Sunil Satyendra. I worked at XYZ. I'm now transitioning into coaching, and that's about it. Here's a golden opportunity for you that possibly somebody is giving you 30 minutes of their time, initial conversation, wherein you're trying to not just make an impression about you as an coach, but also an impression about you as an individual. I talk about myself as an individual. What are my interests? What are my passions? I think there are too many, but I talk about all of them because I don't know if say me and Jyoti are from say BNI, and I have a connection with BNI, and say possibly me and Govind have an interest around possibly growing long beards, right? So I and Govind have instantly connected, and that instant connection is very important for you, so that the people are maintaining a relationship. They're not maintaining a transaction in peer coaching. That will also help you in terms of how you design your first introduction session when you're talking with somebody who's your client. So if you've observed, whoever comes into TOC, except maybe one or two in the latest 1 week, I actually talk with them. And I ask saying, where are you from? What do you do? What's your interest? What your hobbies? It's a general 30-35 minute conversation. So what it does later is, even if I am not doing peer coaching now, I have set up a friendship or a conversational relationship with you such that you're always taking it forward. And also at times, if there are interests that say I have an interest in writing, and if Vidya also has an interest in writing, so me and Vidya are connecting also beyond the coaching conversation. So we've built a stronger rapport, stronger connect. And sometimes, say, possibly Vidya is in touch with another group or another webinar. It automatically is like, I also want to be a part of that. So what you're trying to do is you're also building a network because of that. So you're building that rapport, building that human connection. You're also building a network. And possibly long term down the line, if you coach, you coach in a way that the other coach finds it interesting. If they are getting paid gigs, there's a very high possibility that volume will also spill over to you. Do not think of peer coaching as a 5 session contract that ends after the 5 session is over. So peer coaching, you're building a relationship with another coach, another client, and the client is your possibly your space as a coach will get tested when the client comes back the second time. Your first conversation, 5 sessions is over, and they come back the second time. That's when that is again a space where the client has had impact, and that's where they will come. And possibly another tip is don't worry about giving output or giving solutions to the client. Don't put yourself under pressure at any point in your coaching journey, and specifically in your first 50 hours of coaching journey. Irrespective of what you're doing, whether ACC, PCC, MCC, don't put yourself under pressure saying, I have to deliver for the client. Because a lot of us come from different backgrounds, consulting, mentoring, teaching, training, possibly nothing but completely a different background. Then the pressure is always there. Noted, I'll come back to it. So the pressure is always there to deliver for the client. But what you need to be focusing on is delivering on the process of coaching. When you're delivering on the process of coaching, automatically the delivery will happen for the client, whatever they wanted to establish. Even if they don't articulate sometimes that they've had progress. I have had people come up to me 3 weeks, 4 weeks down the line saying whatever we spoke about in our previous conversation, that's giving me results. The most interesting thing was I didn't remember what was that, but they remembered because it was for them very important. For me, it is one of the coaching session that I've had. For them, it is the coaching session that they've had. So they will always remember. And there will always be progress, even if it is sometimes not tangible. The progress has been made internally in their thought process, belief systems, etc., etc. And before I come back to Jyoti, always, like I said, learner's mindset. Keep learning and keep experimenting, keep moving forward. Yes.
Yeah,
Jyoti.
Sunil, if I understood well, I think what you try to tell us is when you meet a client for the first time, don't treat a client like a client. Just treat a client more like have a friendly conversation.
Correct. Correct.
Right? If I'm talking in a different language maybe, but just get a know-how and build up a relationship as a rapport we build up. Don't try to pitch in that coaching, try to catch him for coaching that time. If he'll
Don't.
come, he'll get that rapport, he'll come on his own. He or
Correct.
she will come on their own. Well, that's what you try to tell us, right?
Correct.
Then
And
secondly, you try to tell us that not to get the results in the first session in that, But it happens very often that when you're coaching and like suppose I'll just give an example. A client comes to you for something that she's doing too many things at the same time. Multiple things. She's coaching, she's got a job, she's got a child at home, she's got in-laws at home, and she's like kind of washed out. But still she wants to carry on and she's overwhelmed. She's frustrated, she's trying to take out, she wants to take out anger somewhere. So then you normally try to get them to thinking that there are something that what makes you want to do so many things at the same time? If you already have so much of pressure, and what do you think other your priorities? Where can you try to get them into that kind of coaching? Okay? You try your best, but they're not ready to budge and accommodate anywhere. They don't want to give up on a single thing, no matter how torturous it is for them. And the session goes on and on. You're going on throwing in questions. And at the end, you know that this is not so important. I mean, you can't have everything in life. You have to leave something. As a coach, I know that in life you can't just get everything. I can't be studying, I can't be partying, I can't be looking after children, I can't be, everywhere. I can't be everywhere. I have to leave something to gain something. But the coach is just not ready to give up on anything. I want to do this. So how do you close a session for that moment and to let her know that okay, we'll meet up again? Like my time is over also, and but she still I've not managed to have a kind of a plan of action for her because she's not ready to move. She's like, no, I can't give up on this because of this reason, and we are not supposed to advise also. So how do we switch to a next call with that person?
Yeah, I
What do
think
we say and switch?
One thing is, I think it's an acquired taste how we do not bring ourselves into the conversation. So if you are sharing some of these things the way you shared it, I sensed a sense of saying, I tried my best, but this person is not budging. So what do I do? So the short answer to that in a long format is that we don't worry whether the client is getting output or not. Right? Our
We
job is
don't.
not to find solutions for them. And there could be a space wherein they have moved a mountain in their head, but we don't know about it. They don't have the vocabulary to articulate it. So we
Mm-hmm.
always assume that the client knows what they're doing. The client is always under all conditions in their most favorable condition when they're actually coming to coaching. They know about themselves. They are the subject matter experts about themselves. What we are only trying to do is put a mirror to them at that particular point of time. So it's that sometimes they're able to see things in a new light, see new things, see themselves or the situation differently. But at no point of time do we say, okay, this is not moving forward. Because we don't know what's our definition of moving forward and what's their definition of moving forward. So that's where a contracting in terms of what's a measure of success will actually help us navigate the conversation better. So here, possibly one aspect, even though I don't know the exact situation with that particular client, is if we have a cleaner contract, it's easier for us to sort of wait, and nothing happens in just one session. It takes minimum 3 to 4 sessions for tangible impact to be seen by the client themselves. And possibly some sessions they'll be able to directly say, okay, this is it, I did it. It's easier. But overall, from a point of view of, say, awareness, action, and accountability to come, my experience is about you will need around 3 to 4 sessions for the client to actually bring that into practice and from there take it forward. So it's easy,
Yes,
right? So I will say I will study today. But for me to actually study today and learn something and then come back, it will take some time.
I do hear you, but like when we say that the contract is only done after the discovery call, right?
Mhm.
After discovery call. So do we do the contract before,
During,
after? So
during,
in the
during.
discovery call itself, I see the guy is not sure. Like normally, if the discovery call is successful, then you tell them that if you
Mm,
want to take further, you know, this thing, I'll send you these forms and blah blah all the formalities. Then I'll send them the contract by mail or whatever is my decided mode of action. But this is before the discovery call. I mean, during the discovery call, if I feel that we've reached nowhere, so obviously the
mm,
client won't come back to me. But my 1 hour or 1.5 hours already gone by. I need to move on. I have another client waiting, or maybe I have to go out somewhere. So how do I end the conversation in a polite way, leaving the chance for the coachee to come back to me also,
mm.
and
Yeah.
yet I
Mm,
mean,
mm, mm,
because
mm.
there's no
Yeah.
contract already. There's no contract in the picture.
Mm, mm, mm. So this is the first chemistry call. Persons come, share their entire life story. Nothing's moved. So possibly during those, you can ask these questions. So even whatever you take in your coaching call, saying what would you like to achieve at the end of the session, what would be your measures of success? Those could be anchoring questions, right? So you ask that question even in your coaching session with them, or like the chemistry call with them. Right, so that way for a non-peer, because the peer usually understands the lingo of coaching, so that's a little easier. For a non-peer, it's you anchor them with saying what do you want to achieve at the end of say 6 sessions, 5 sessions, whatever you have with each other, and then you also
Um,
discuss about what is their measure of success there. How will you know that you've reached to that point? What will be the factors of influence, and then possibly also what's standing in the way, and then essentially how do you like to celebrate. So you run the same stuff like you run a typical coaching conversation, but you don't go deeper into the reflection aspects. You run at least the contracting aspect. So even if you have done all of this, and if you feel that the clients move nowhere, check with the client saying during whatever conversation we've done, are there any awarenesses or anything that you've learned about yourself? Put it back to the client. Don't assume. Put it back to the client saying, what are you learning about yourself? Would you like to have a deeper exploration in the further aspects of this in another conversation. We've almost reached we'd say 50 minutes is what we contracted. We're at 45. We have another 5 more minutes. Have you reached a space wherein you know whether you want to continue coaching or not want to continue coaching? I want to do another experimentation and see XYZ. So you can always bring up the time saying we contracted 50 minutes. I have seen it's 45 already. You've spoken a lot or whatever you've spoken about. Have you reached a place where you know that you want to continue coaching or not want to continue? Bring that back. You can ask.
I got my answer. There.
Yeah. And
hey guys, can you all put on your videos if possible? We'll have more visibility. So
yeah,
I mean that will make it more interesting. And why don't Meenakshi go with your questions?
Any questions?
Please make it more interesting. So at least then Sunil may give us more series of these webinars.
Yeah, I'm not. So any questions?
So obedient he is. The moment I said put on the video, he put on the video.
Yeah. Now we know where the remote control is it. Yes. So any questions or anything that you feel like you have an opinion or you have a point of view to share, that's also open.
Just want to thank you for letting me in this lovely group. Very, very kind of you, and I look for upliftment of my little knowledge. Thank you so much, Sunil.
Most definitely, yeah. And Manoj, all of us are learning, and somewhere I think we also have some tangents where I think sometimes we are also contributing to the group, and sometimes we may not know what is our contribution until somebody tells us saying, "Hey, this is something you told, and it really helped." So similar to what Jyoti said, she asked for it, she got it, and possibly if she had not asked for it, I wouldn't have known saying there's a requirement for this in terms of how to start. Because I have done it so many times, I assume that everybody knows it. Right? So, and that's where sometimes your question is sometimes somebody else's gift, because they've also been holding on to that question and they don't know whether they can ask or not. So, you can share any questions
in
you
a
have.
common journey. Yeah, surely.
Romita just put on the video again. She's gone back.
Yeah.
We'd like to see more people on the video. It really becomes interesting.
Yes.
Okay, I can have my question if I have a list of questions.
Yeah. No, Vidya has her hands raised. I'll check with
Okay,
Vidya.
we'll take Vidya's questions first of all.
Yes, Vidya.
Hi. So you told us before this during the chemistry meeting you can also have a little bit questions about the contract, right?
Correct.
So do you mean that we should also talk? We can also talk to them about problems what they're facing at that particular in the chemistry meeting? Because normally in the chemistry meeting, what I do is I'm just trying to understand the person. I don't deep dive into the problems as such. I deep dive into the problems only during the actual sessions happen. But chemistry session is where I get to know them very well. What are their interests? What is their passion? Where are they coming from? I tell them about myself, my journey, and what am I doing. And the next thing I tell them is about the coaching sessions. If what is a coaching session all about? Is it mentoring? Is it counseling? So all that stuff I explain to them, and I also tell them that. I just set an expectation there, that we will start with the problem statement and we will make it granular and we will see how we can arrive at a conclusion or a solution. But the solution, you will arrive at it on your own. I mean, as a coach, I'm just partnering with you and I'm with you during the process of the problem. But we will arrive at the solution together, and the more granular you get, you more clear you are with your problem, the more possibilities to have an outcome. So this is all I do. So do you think we should go deeper into it, or this much of chemistry session is enough?
I think there's no one singular rule saying, hey, this is how it should be and it shouldn't be. If that's working for you, that's how it works for you. And if it's working for you and your client, that's fantastic, right? So if I have, say, 1 hour of time with my client, and it's a chemistry call, possibly, say, via LinkedIn, I don't know anything about them, possibly trying to find out whether I am trying to find out whether I can get a paid client from this one. I have 1 hour of time with them. So possibly 15 minutes is my introduction. Another 15 is theirs. We finish 30 minutes. Another 10 minutes goes into what coaching is all about, what coaching is not about. Then possibly I do a wheel of life where I am asking them to say, what areas of life would you like to focus on? So you have time, why not use it? Right? So why not use it and give them a slight uh, exposure into how a coaching call actually works. So you know whether the client is going to get converted or not converted very quickly. A client also knows whether I want coaching or I want mentoring, I want other modes of support. So it makes it a little more easier depending on the time you have with the client. If I have possibly only 15 minutes, then I would have used that 15 minutes to build the rapport and then brought them into another session and somewhere there. But what happens there, specifically when I'm looking at it from a paid clienting point of view, is what is my turnaround time? I've got this person here who's ready, ready to talk. And then I say, okay, this is all about coaching. Then let's do another 15 minutes, another half an hour somewhere, which may happen, which may not happen. So we use the time we have to build it up. So if you're getting a half an hour, 45 minute space, try and also bring in elements wherein they're actually getting a taste and feel about coaching is. So that is your advantage. But more of the answer for me in terms of, like the rapport building and say your experience sharing was for also peer coaching. Because that is where external person is a very strange person, stranger, not strange person, stranger for you. And you're building that rapport with them. So you can also use the same with another, say, non-peer. But you cut down on some of these questions so that you have more time with them. Keep the focus on them as much as possible. And possibly Wheel of Life is another 20-25 minute equation. If they say, I need to explore coaching, but I don't know what topic. If they've already bought a topic, your job is a lot more easier. You can give them a taste of what coaching is. So you can possibly run a 15-20 minute space wherein you're talking about the contract, what is they want to establish at the end of call, how will they know, how are they feeling about it, what would they feel like when they end it. So these are all questions you can ask for anchoring. And so it's a taste for them, right? So what is happening, what's not happening. And then we can be like, okay, that's about a small nudge. How do you feel about it? Do you feel this is how you operate? Whether this works for you? So there could be people who may not have time to come back to you with another session. Say that could be another month away, another 15 days away. So you may lose out on saying, it's a hot lead. It's no longer a hot lead later. So you can choose if this is working out for you, great. But there's also another alternative way it can also work out. Yeah, but there's nothing like this is the only way. Different coaches use different approaches. And again, possibly whenever you're a new coach, also during your coaching journey, try and discover what is your style. So what's your style of chemistry call? What's your style as a coach? It may not be a niche. Niche is a different one. What's your style? How do you connect with people? And also keep on radar, why are people coming to you? So they're spending their time, they're coming to you and they're asking you questions, spending their time, their energy, their focus. So why are people coming to you and why should people come to you and not to another coach? So there are like many credential coaches. Why are they coming to you? Keep a radar on that. And that's where you build your storytelling. And your journey as a coach begins the day you say you've started your training. And from there, you begin your personal branding. Aramita, I think you can ask a question.
Good evening. Yeah, so my question here is like what I'm really struggling, I'm doing my course, and what I'm actually struggling here is that while in a coaching session, when I have built up the chemistry, I find it more interesting when it is an interactive session with my client. Like as if when we sit with a friend and when we start discussing a problem, and you are also acting as a soundboard to what they have in their mind. And sometimes when you are hitting a corner, like dead corner, sometimes where you cannot actually find where the route is, Bill suggesting, because in ICF coaching, it is absolutely prohibited that you will lead the client to something. But say, suppose if a client is going through such a rough phase, and at that present moment of time, he or she is not able to see in which path, so will giving some suggestions to a specific direction just to, you know, take the conversation forward, where you give new food for thought for the person. Will that help, or it is absolutely we should not be doing that?
I think when we put it absolutely, I think there's a possibility of multiple interpretations around the absolutely space. So possibly one of the things I use is that I use different methods of enabling the internal wisdom to come through. Sometimes whatever is being articulated is a very logical point of view in a lot of cases. As far as then an alternate wisdom that's available to you in terms of your heart wisdom, gut wisdom, possibly creative wisdom. So I have built a space wherein I allow the client to sort of escape from a space of not feeling completely empowered, to get to a space where there's a core that is already there that they're not sort of completely aware of right now. So once the core is being touched, they come back to their original core. But I don't give, say, feed forward, feedback, or a nudging. But as a coach starting to learn, and you're usually like, the aspect is you're trying to learn, say, walking. At some point, you will have to say crawl, then you'll have to try and get up, then you'll fall, and then it's okay. So if you're taking it as one of the ways in which you're learning to undo some of your other practices of usual way of chatting or usual way of running a conversation, in that, be very conscious, saying as much as possible, try to keep away the nudge. But if you cannot do that at all for you to move, it's one of the ways you can use it as a way moving forward. But that should not become your default. You should always understand that it can be done without using the nudging. So I think there's, I don't know if Jyoti knows of it, but I think Govind definitely knows. So one of the things around coaching and creativity. So how we can actually ask the client different questions for them to tap into wisdom that's already there, even though they may not be able to see it. So there's a 4-quadrant structure. The client knows that they know. The client knows that they don't know. So very easy spaces to work with. The client doesn't know that they don't know is one of the largest areas of work as a coach. And possibly also that the client does and knows that they don't know. So all those 4 quadrants coming into picture. So we'll have to work on that space where I don't know that I don't know spaces where we'll be working. And our question somewhere would have to have specifically around the corner when nothing's moving is about tapping them in that space. And that's an art, right? So it's not something that the markers will give you. So your art, your experience, your space of saying intuitively and instinctively knowing how this one would work at this point. That's what you develop over practice. And during practice, if nothing's working for you, you don't break your head saying, oh, nothing's working, and you don't get worked up. Your presence is basically lost. So at that point, a nudge can work. So as long as it is a nudge, and somewhere also, if you're taking it from an assessment point of view, is it the coach giving the nudge? Is it coming from a coach context? Is it coming from a client context? There's so many questions that come alongside. And also in terms of what differentiates it between a fantastic conversation with a friend and what differentiates it between a good coaching conversation. It has to be clearly identified. That there's a contract, there's non-neutrality, there's possibly like look at it from like this. So me and you are separated from a screen. And I'm not coming into your part of the screen and sharing something, and you're not coming into my part of the screen and sharing something. So our neutrality is also that whatever the client is sharing does not affect me now. And whatever I am asking as a question or my biases and my experiences are also not going towards the coach. Sorry, towards the client. So when our nudges are coming, it at some point could be counterintuitive. Right? So I don't know if
Okay.
Jyoti is trying to catch a picture of all of us in the conversation or is doing something else with a phone. I don't know.
Okay. Okay. Sir, one more question I have for you. Like, why I'm asking this? Because if I look at it from a coach's point of view, say, suppose I want to go to a coach where I need a coaching for
Mm,
myself.
mm,
So I would rather, as a personal preference, choose a coach who would be much more interactive with me in that manner, because that is exactly what I'd be looking for. Like if my coach keeps on asking me only whys, and it is only me that he's expecting me to find the solution to, at one point of time, my question would be, if I would have found it myself, then why you?
mm. Correct.
So,
So I think
from a coach's point of view, I would much more like, it's just for a conversation's sake, because I understand all the things ICF mandates us to do. But say, suppose we are all here, and I have a chemistry session with each one of you in this screen. And for me, I will choose the coach who would be much more interactive with me, where I will have the space where it is just not a dead end whys and whys and whys, because at one point of time I'd be completely tired of that. I need an answer, man. That is why I'm here for. So finally, I would need a insight, a perspective, which is something foreign to me, a newer, fresher way of. It's like refreshing your screen and seeing it from something else, a newer vision which I have not already thought of. Because when in the space of coaching, I suppose only people who are self aware to a bit are into this, who want to have this meaningful conversation where I can see it from, 360-degree all towards. So maybe now my visualization is from my point of view, but I would also like to know what's your point of view. It might not be mine, but it will definitely give me a different spectacle to look through that, and maybe assess the situation in a completely different manner, and that would be stimulating for me. So as a coachee, I definitely go for a coach who will not only will want me to find my solution, but will also give me newer perspectives, which maybe at this point of time when I'm struggling in my life, I'm not able to get to it as easily, because sometimes thought blocks happen. Maybe we know that, but we are completely restricted in those areas. So, from a coachee point of view, I definitely go for that coach. So, this is where I'm struggling right now. That is why I'm putting this question, because definitely it is from a coach's point of view, definitely that would be my uh, choice. Like obviously this is how I will choose and connect with that person.
yeah.
Paramita is definitely not coming to Sunil. Sunil, you can relax. I'm never going to be your client. He just doesn't talk.
Can I put across my view about this?
Sure, Manoj.
Sure.
Okay. My prerogative here will be was just my prerogative. Maybe I'm totally wrong also, because Sunil is that authority for all of us. For me, coaching is like connecting the dots with the client. Like whatever the client says, we have to be very careful about what he's saying and bringing up the words that may connect the dots of his confusion or his questions. So ultimately, see, our human mind, 95% is subconscious mind, 5% is that. So all the answers are within our subconscious mind. Just that, over the period of time and discussions and lifestyle, we get confused not to use that point. So that's where our role comes in. So if we are able to, like, when the client is talking, we have to just be very, very careful about words that he's using, which are a part of his subconscious mind, and hit on that to connect the dots. And the client will feel more comfortable when he can solve the problem himself. But ultimately, this one has to solve his problems oneself. We can't impose our decision, we can't impose our view, we can't impose our solutions. So, in the long run, if the client is able to solve himself with your way of questioning, taking out the inner child from him, using the four-day quadrangles or the Gibbs theory, this really works long term, especially for the client. So, this is my, little contribution of my understanding what
Mm.
Ramita asked. Now he can, do the best.
Hmm. 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 Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Manoj, for sharing. So if I have to add my 2 cents to it, first of all, in terms of authority, I think there are bigger authorities at play, but possibly for this conversation, I'll put an authority hat in here. So if you observed, I observed what Manoj was sharing. So he said Sunil is an authority figure here, and I tried to say I am not. So my observation was about that. So if I am catching on the things that the client is sharing, there's a level of trust that's been built. And in coaching, we don't ask why questions, right? So our questions is what's making you do this? And if at some point the client is particularly not happy with us as a coach, me as a coach, or whatever, they need a different intervention. Possibly if the way you are sharing interactive, for me, it looks like that particular space is about mentoring rather than coaching. Right. So in my experience, I'm sharing some of my experience. I have allowed that to be the space. So I am asking for more information, data, etc., etc. So that's where possibly mentoring would help rather than coaching at that point. So if they want coaching, they've come to coaching, and that's when they feel that, hey, I need another perspective. One of the ways I would ask the client is that who is going to give you those new perspectives. So if the client asks me, what's your opinion about it? 90% of the time, I would say, what is the opinion that you're looking for from me? Somewhere it's about validation, somewhere it's about something else. There is a skill set differentiation in terms of how you can still give it back to the client in a way that they're able to reflect. Our job is to give a space for the client to reflect. Our job is not to ask questions. Questions asking is one of the ways the reflective space manifests. But my job as a coach is not to ask questions, because the person will say like, if I'm able to ask what is the thing that you want to establish at the end of the conversation, if I've been part of 2 conversations, the coach is asking me the same questions, I might as well have noted down, have my wife, friend, best friend, whatever, ask me those questions, and I'm chalta. Our role is much more subtle and much more nuanced than that. So like Manoj was saying, it's about what's the language of the client, what's the energy of the client, what's the body language of the client. We are observant of that. And also we're bringing that observations back to the client and saying, what is that you're trying to make out of this? Right. So we don't ask why questions. Why comes from a space of judgment. Our job is not to ask questions. And our job is absolutely interactive, because we're continuing to interact with the signals the client is sharing. May not be interacting in the way that it is sharing my point of view. So I come from a school of thought where I've had too much of advice. I'm a very young person, and I've had too much of advice from a lot of people. And 99.9% Dettol percentage, I know that that will not work for me. So I don't want to ask your point of view. And that's why coaching for me is perfect, because you've let me explore the world inside my space. And like Manoj was sharing, there's answer already inside. Or else possibly if answer is not already inside, there's already answer as to who can give me that answer. So if the client is asking, saying, what's your opinion? 90% of the time, client knows that he or she has an opinion. What they're looking for possibly is a validation from your end. And as a coach, we're not giving positive validation, neither are we giving negative validation. So I don't know if by A lot of other aspects I answered your question or is still open. If it's still open, you can still ask.
Can I ask?
Yeah,
Yes.
sure.
Yeah, just one question from me. Like I'm just at the beginning of my coaching. So what happens is the moment the client tells me about his or her problem, I immediately jump into the, that solution mode. So I create, yeah, I get make a connect with that person, feel that the problem is happening with me, and I immediately jump onto the solution, which I think is not okay. So what do you suggest at that point of time?
Yeah, I think Meenakshi, one thing is, you are aware of this, right? So you're aware of this happening. So what will have to be done in your learning journey is be a lot more conscious about it during all of your coaching conversations. And when you're conscious about it, when you're aware about it, I think you can actually reduce the intensity of you trying to, solve the problem for the client. And then also articulating it in a way, or basically practicing it in a way that you're trying to keep yourself to a bare minimal, and possibly also getting coached from other peers as to how they do it is a very quick example of how to do certain things and how not to do certain things. So that is where peer coaching is a great learning tool for all of us. So if say I am coaching, I come with a very different experience when I'm coaching. Let's say possibly somebody in their first 10 hours would have a very different experience in their coaching space. So the higher experience you're trying to get coached with or peer coached with, the more easier for you to say understand. Saying, I would have asked this question at this point of time, but this person did not ask that question. He asked something else, or she asked something else. Make a note of that. So possibly that's one of the easiest methods for you to learn other vocabulary. I think the problem as a young coach is that I don't have enough vocabulary to ask the question in a different way. So how do we build that vocab is possibly peer coaching. So that is your easiest, you know, uh, highway into getting to work on this. And it is, it is part of the game that you're unlearning first. And that is why I said first 10 hours concentrate on contract, second 10 hours concentrate on something else. By around 40, you're able to get to a full-fledged conversation. And then by the time you finish your 70, 80, by around 50 hours, get yourself a mentor coach. That's very, very important. And not just a mentor coach who is trying to give you group coaching sessions or, like this. It has to be one-to-one. You're spending lakhs of rupees on it. Spend a little more such that your skill set gets to a point where it gives you money the moment you are trying to get to that space of actually making money out of it. So, because I hear a lot of people saying, when I do mentor coaching, saying, I know there's a problem, but I've already spent 1.5 lakhs on coaching, so I may not be able to pay much. That's the problem. You spent 1.5 lakhs on something that you feel is good for you, and say another 30,000, 40,000, you are able to practice it and get to a shape where you're actually making it work for you. If you are not doing it, but you're saying, oh, I will learn on the job, you are wasting 6 to 8 months to get to a point where you're good at your job. And in those 6 to 8 months, you would have lost out on a great few contracts that if you had gotten better at your skill set, you would have been able to crack way quickly. So mentoring starts around 50, possibly, in your own organization, or possibly from another mentor coach, possibly from me. So I think also don't, when you are a coach, don't let any opportunity go, specifically in the first 50 hours. Talk to your friends, talk to your family, possibly not to the immediate family, like friends, cousins, acquaintances, office colleagues, noted, office colleagues, and then say, I am doing something very new, is coaching. Can you experience that? Because they are your first level of, they are safe with you, you are safe with them. You can afford to be not your 100% as a coach. They'll still either gossip around or will still give you brownie points. you will get your first referral circle from your friends. Yeah. So, Jyoti, you had something.
Really just mentioned that in the first 50 hours, don't let any opportunity go. What are these? Because I'm trying to capture all the opportunity I can get.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the more? Can you just elaborate on any opportunities? Like, of course, one is the mentor coach, one is the your coaching hours.
Correct.
The proper coaching. Then you also on a personal session together. You
Mm-hmm.
also guided me on the basics of what the kind of questioning I should do. That will cover up all the competency and markers. That's very good, which people can take personal sessions and get. So all those they can do, but can you elaborate more so that I know exactly I'm not missing out on anything.
Correct. So any opportunity for coaching that you're able to get. So you are proactive rather than, waiting for opportunities to come your way. You are proactive. You do a poster saying, I'm a new coach, or write a text message to your friend saying, I'm doing something new. I need to experiment with this in terms of getting better. If you have a problem with XYZ, say career, say life, say wellness, work-life balance, would you like to give yourself 1 hour each week for you to see if there's any changes? I can't guarantee there are changes, but I am also in need of experience, and possibly you are in need of a change. Can we work together on this? So that's one of the opportunities that you're creating for yourself. People may not know that you're into coaching because some of you may have primary jobs. They will know you from the primary job. They'll not know you, something like this. A very high chance that somebody will say, okay, I have a problem that I want to work with. Right. So, enough of your process around coaching, how a contracting works, how this thing works. So you're able to give them the space where they want to come and express themselves, find solutions for themselves. And you also explain to them that this is what coaching is. This is what coaching is not. So it acts as then a bouncing pattern saying, you've done this conversation so many times. Now, the next conversation that you do with your actual paid client, say 2 months, 3 months down the line, you've practiced it so many times that it doesn't feel alien to you.
No.
Right. So that's one. What I did was I had a poster. I used to constantly put it on my WhatsApp. I used to post it in groups. Uh, I was very passionate. I still am very passionate about coaching. So I said, why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? Do webinars, do workshops. So different aspects where you're trying to establish your name in the game. You can be a great coach, have great skill sets, but if people don't know that you exist, then you will not be getting business. Right. So
Exactly.
you will have to start building your personal branding, your acumen in terms of coaching way early. Don't bother about the niche. You can figure out the niche a little later. But work on your brand. What are your personal brand values? Who are you as an individual? What's your style of coaching? Who would your if you have some clear structure already, who's your already target audience? If your niche and target audience is already available to you, why don't you just use it? So, and again, or use commonalities to your advantage rather than differentiations. So possibly somebody is like, Jyoti is like, I'm from West Bengal. And so possibly somebody from West Bengal can easily connect with you, saying, hey, there's a commonality between both of us. And then you explain what coaching is, and then say, I'm doing something new. Would you like to experiment? Do you know somebody in your network that's okay to experiment? But I think also you're putting your reputation on the line. And that's where you should do it once you've got a hang of what coaching is and what it is not. And you actually put it down not only on paper, but actually in a session. You've done sessions, you've had some feedback, you know that your clients got feedback, feed forward, they've actually had impact. So you have stories to share. And that's where your first 50 is. And then after the second 50, you start building on your paid clients, brand, this thing by around 70, start recording by around 80, 85, 90, start getting testimonials. Even you can do it even at your first session also. You can start asking for testimonials. And don't shy away from asking testimonials. So I think those are things that I wanted to share today in terms of, what's a checklist for a new coach. Any other questions? Any other points of view? Happy
Just
to
a small tempting question. I mean, there's a small to what Oromita said, how people always look at the coaches as counselors also, I mean, with they no matter they come to a coach and they're looking for a counselor or a mentor or so it's very difficult for us in the beginning to explain to them that here we are going to. I'm not here to answer your question. I'll be asking, getting it out of you, that potential out of you, and that will be more long term, more sustainable. But at times, you also want to be. How do you balance being supportive and yet challenging to the client growth? For the you because at times you also get tempted. You have the answer like as Meenakshi said immediately. The as beginners, we have a solution for because free gyan ki aadat hai na. We always give free knowledge. Free advice is very common in our country, especially. So the moment someone says a problem, yeah, even I had this problem and I solved this. So, we all have that habit. So we already have an answer the moment the client has spoken the first sentence of his problem. And I've been dying to answer, but then I want to know that I cannot answer. By now, I definitely know I cannot advise. So I want to support the client, yet I want it to be challenging. So how do I show that balance? I don't know if I've made my question clear.
Yeah. I think if I understand right, so you want to, essentially stay present with the client. So you want to not answer their questions, but still stay with them as a coach during the conversation, right? So you want to have the
Exactly.
coaching hat. So you can have the coaching hat, even if you feel like having the urge to answer a question, acknowledge the urge, let it go. Think of your coaching conversation as a flowing river, right? I use this example many times. That whatever is coming in is flowing. That's if you have an urge to answer, mentally acknowledge the urge to answer, let that go and stay with the client. Stay with what the client is sharing, what is their body language, start observing that, such that your thought process is not bent on what I have to tell, what I have to do as a coach. The more higher experience you go, you realize that as a coach, you don't need to do anything. Coach is about a place of being rather than a doing space. Presence itself is enough to be supportive. The client knows that I have come to Sunil, I have come to Jyoti, I have come to Zarina, that this is already a space that's safe. And that's when I know that it's enough. I don't need to ask questions. Asking questions, like I said, is a consequence or a manifestation of the space that we are as a coach. We don't need to ask questions. We don't need to ask 10 questions. I've had people say, you should ask 13 questions in a coaching conversation. You should ask 15 in a coaching conversation. I said, not really. If you need assessment for it, you're submitting to ICF, there's possibly need for a certain number of questions, but not necessary in a coaching conversation. Your supportive space could be in the presence that you have. And at point, if you feel like there's an observation with which you need to challenge something, you are sensing a contradiction. So the client says, I am very excited, but they're sharing it from a voice that's very disappointed. There's no synchronicity between my voice and whatever I'm telling. At that point, you can always bring it as an observation, ask permission, bring it as an observation. And at all points of time, you can also do that. Bring in an observation, but only after you've asked for permission, saying, when you shared X, Y, Z, I noticed something in your body language, etc., etc. Can I share something with you? And it could be a little challenging. You brought that up. So made me ready, saying, it's almost as if, you're making your mom or dad ready, saying, you know what, I found somebody very interesting. And he may not be from the same family background as XYZ, right? So you're setting the context up for it.
Yeah.
So that's how it works. So you can still be supportive of the client, still be challenging. And remember, we don't need to challenge. It's not our need as a coach. It's not our definition of a coach that we need to challenge.
No, just to challenge them to grow more. That's what I'm talking about. Their growth, not challenging as a.
You are not responsible for their growth. They are responsible for their growth.
Okay, now as we almost reaching the end of our session, I believe, and how long time you'll give us. I want to tell you to tell us some special tools. Like in this case, suppose it would be like being present with the client. Being an active listener would serve as the biggest support I can give. So, what are the tools and resources that I can use to enhance my coaching sessions?
Hmm.
Let's hear the Sunil's magic tools, if I can get that.
I
No,
think
I
one
know
of
the
the
tools. I've
first,
read the books. I've studied in the class, but I'm talking
yeah,
about the
I
practical
think
tools that you would suggest from your end.
the first tools I discovered during my journey was to have no tools.
No.
Tools are only your possibly like, some um, trying to find a proper metaphor to explain this. It's just like a side pickle. It doesn't have to be the dish. You can still have the dish without the pickle. The tool is possibly a requirement that may not always be the case. So if you feel like it's a great tool to use, specifically Wheel of Life is a great tool to use as a first starter.
Mm-hmm.
And then possibly at some time, depending on the client that you're working with, role reversals or role play is another second aspect. But you need to know when to use it, when not to use it. And that's where the entire skill set is. The whole skill set is knowing when to use and when not to use. It's not knowing the tool. A tool
Mm-hmm.
you can learn from, you can Google search, you can get it learn from a training institute, but you will not learn when not to use it and when to use it unless you do it with a particular client. And that is where you can do it with peers. So you can actually tell the client saying in this peer coaching conversation, you have an understanding that I'll use this XYZ tool. Is that okay with you? And don't try to force fit the tool into that, but possibly if the situation comes along, use it. My magic tool is don't use tools, because you are then overly reliant on your coaching style is reliant on tools, and coaching is
I still haven't got my
not
ICF certificate, so please don't tell me this. Let me get my certificate once, then I'll listen to all this. I'm going to use the tools right now. At least till I get my certificate. Then I'll follow Sunil and not ICF maybe.
I think it's very simple, right? So you don't have to use a tool. In say the 600 hours of that work that I've done, possibly around 45 hours of actually used tools to essentially enable the client to move wherever they want to move. And if I can do it, then so can you. I'm not, like it's like I'm not Superman or some other this thing saying, hey, Sunil is doing it.
No,
If
but how do you handle? Because I heard one of the recordings of your coaching sessions. I think it was with some Russian lady,
yeah,
in which you probably asked about 7, 8
color
questions
tools,
maximum.
metaphors.
Very short ones, extremely short ones, which just went through my. I couldn't even grasp the question before it finished. And in fact, you talked about colors. You talked about which part of the body are you feeling the pain. Something which you've not been taught theoretically at all, and you still managed to get her to the solution within, I think, 45 minutes again.
Correct.
So how did you manage that? Because we are struggling with so much of learning. So what are those mantras? We want to know here. What are your mantras basically?
I don't want to put everything into a single session. So seeing what will work in a session, what will not work in a session. Experiment. Sometimes failures taught me saying this tool with this person, this didn't work. So possibly this tool with another person will work. So it's again trying, possibly failing, possibly getting it right, and then trying it again. So that's how you'll get. So that's the tip. But I think there's no magic formula. The more you look for a magic formula, the more you are not being present as the coach. Right. So all these tools in terms of colors, numbers, whatever I've developed over in terms of creativity in coaching, it's come as an after effect of all the coaching that I've done and saying, I can also bring different spaces into it. And I've experimented. So experimentation with tools is your fastest way to move forward. So I have
Great.
2 raised hands. I'll come to Priya and Zarina and then come back to you. I know you have questions.
Hey, hi Sunil. Sorry, I'm in the bus stop
That's
waiting
okay.
for the bus, so I did not turn on the camera.
No worries.
So the question is, can you give some insights about the pricing and packaging? How we can spread that pricing and packaging in the clarity call itself? Should we even commit upfront in the clarity call, like 5 sessions, and this is how it is going to look like? I will take through this in every session, and the end of the contract should be made it in the clarity call itself, or how we going to do the pricing and packaging? That's my question in precise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll answer this part first, which I observed, saying we don't have to tell saying this question one, session two, session three, session four. Then it becomes a
Okay.
cohort, or then it becomes like a workshop, then it becomes a guided webinar, rather than a coaching space. Right? So first session is our initial contracting. Session two, session three, possibly session four. Because from our experience, we've known that we need 3 or 4 sessions for us to actually move forward, the client seeing tangible growth, etc., etc. So we've seen 4 possibilities there. 4 session is a possibility. You can pitch it up to 4. So what I do is that I say there are 3 sessions that we'll work together with. And then after that, you have a choice whether you want to continue or not. We don't tell saying this is what we do in session 1, session 2, and session 3. If we have such a structure, it's somewhere not coaching. Because if you have defined the structure, then where is the client's choice of doing it? So it's the client's choice at the end of the day as to what they want to talk about, when they want to talk about, what topics they want to talk about. So otherwise it becomes a guided program wherein you're acting as a mentor or a consultant. So, and in terms of pricing, everybody has different pricing. So what I did was I tried free, then I tried 250 rupees, then I tried 500, then I 750, then I 1,500, then 2.5, then 5. And now I've come to a cushioning effect of $100 to $150 per session. Right. So what I got to know is the other coaches who are seniors didn't tell me exact numbers. But what I have decided to tell whenever somebody asks a question is like, I will tell you my numbers. Because this is what was my journey. You can choose what number is comfortable for you to start pricing. You can put it as a package. You can put it as a, one shot people will pay you. People pay you per session. They'll pay you before the session. They'll pay you after the session. They'll pay you in installments. It's your way of working with the client and have a range, right? So I have a range of working with pro bono to around $125 with people. So I don't charge the singular rate for everybody. Possibly for somebody who is a teenager, I don't charge $125. I possibly charge $125 for somebody who's a CEO of an organization because they have paying capacity. They know the space that they want to. So it's a choice I make. So if you have a niche that's ready, if you have a target audience that's hot, so you can still price your range the way you want it. The packaging is because that it's somewhere a subconscious contracting with the client, saying it's not a one-off deal. There are more sessions to be had. And it's a way, it's a invisible accountability also with packaging, paying upfront, etc., etc. So it's a completely wide open space as to what the client can do or what the client may not want to do. It's sorry, what the coach wants to do with the client in terms of the financial arrangements. That's open to you. Packaging is only like we don't end with one session, and also is a space wherein you know that in one session you may not have had anything as an output, and so with 3 sessions you're also sorted in terms of your numbers in terms of say how much you're going to make. Also alongside the client is actually going to see tangible results because otherwise you may not have say testimonials from the clients. So not proper ICF defined saying, oh, this is what should it be, but it's like the business part of it. There's a credentialing part, there's a learning part, there's a business part. All of these packaging, pricing, etc. will come in the business aspect of it. That's still gray, right? So you're still ethically right. You're not ethically violating any of the ICF principles, but you are making it in a way that's comfortable for you and the client.
But it gives the commitment as well, right? As you said, or otherwise it is very hard to sell what is not seen versus a product.
It is very difficult to sell what's not.
Yeah, so they'll come for one session. They will not possibly have any breakthrough. Then they don't turn up for the second, and they'll end up in a belief that coaching is not useful.
It's not
To avoid that, so the packaging part, why I felt it's useful is that you get some kind of accountability. Also, it is avoiding you from getting burned out. Doing one session with so many people,
Correct,
and then end of the day, you are financially also you are not getting your margins done. So if you do the packaging, you get the commitment and you show the benefit of coaching and you get the testimonies and your margin is also hit in terms of finance.
Correct.
So that's why I asked you, the packaging is important when you do that
Absolutely.
in the beginning itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And see, the easiest way to explain is that you didn't pass from your 10th standard engineering in just 1 year. So you had 4 years to basically pass your engineering there. Every year for you to say you passed out, you'll have 4 or 5 unit tests or some tests or some exams. There are different milestones for you to get to a certain point where you say, "Oh, we're done." So you don't just read a book and say, I know everything about it. So there's a process, there's a timeline, and you tell it in the conversation you're having with the client, saying it doesn't work in one session. It needs a journey. It's not a quick fix solution that coaching is. The coaching is a journey. And that's automatically a space for you to say, okay, we will need X, Y, Z sessions. Even the client will ask you, how many sessions are we going to have as an intervention? And then you can say we are going to have 3, then possibly depending on the situation, we'll possibly need more, right? So it's again a situational dependent, client dependent, coach dependent, topics dependent. And while talk about some topics, they may even get some other topic that's of interest. So we don't know. So that way, have packaging, but I think don't keep it too rigid is what I like to say. Yeah. Zarina, over to you. Priya, I hope I've answered
Thank
it.
you. Yeah, Sunil. Thank you. But it's more of an experimentation. That's what I could understand. Yeah.
Correct. Yes, Zarina.
Hello, Sunil. Yeah, hello, Sunil. Hi, everybody. I was just wondering if you can share with us about your relationships with the clients between the sessions. How often do you reach out? What are the reasons to follow up on the session? And would you actually advise to follow up, for example, in which cases?
I think during peer coaching, during my hours, I have done a lot of follow-ups in saying when is our next session, right? Sometimes that happens. Yeah, just a second. So I have followed up in terms of when is our next session, saying what are we, but it's not about what did you progress on. So it's not about that. I do know of MCCs who have in their packaging saying it's a 1-year deal that you get 12 sessions with me. I check in with you once every 15 days. And the check-in is just a gentle nudge saying, do you need help? Right? Do you need any help in terms of sticking to what you said you'll stick to? How are you doing? So it could be that. So it's again a space where you as a style, you're coaching as a, your style as a coach, right? So it could mean that there is a need for accountability, but you don't do it from the space saying, I want to know what you're doing. It's not like you're a teacher, I'm your student, and I want to know what's happening. So the intention behind asking matters a lot. And is the intention clear both to you as well as the client? So follow-up can happen. Follow-up need not always happen. And the follow-up, when it's happening, it doesn't need to put pressure on the client saying the coach is asking me what's happened, but I haven't done stuff. So it can happen, right? Something life happens. I may not be able to do what I want to do. But if my coach is following with me consistently saying, what have you done, etc., etc., I may feel like, oh, I have not done something. When I get to the client, I may not feel like showing up to that client. So I may find reasons not to come to coaching, which is not working out. So it's again a subtle art in terms of following, not following. I don't follow up, except possibly saying, when are we having our next session? And when are you going to pay for it?
Gotcha. Very important questions, right? To know the answer to. I also wondered, can you share a little bit? Maybe I just missed in the group this information. Can you share a little bit about the coaching labs, how they are actually set up? When do you supposed to meet? Because I have difference in time with you guys, and it's important for me to know as much information as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So possibly on Monday, you will get a actual feel of what happens in a coaching lab. What happens in a coaching lab is there are 4 people, and it's an 8-week program. And in that space, so say you will coach, say Jyoti, so if all four of us or all three of you are part of the labs. So one of you will coach each other for 40 minutes. And all of us as a cohort are observing what's happening. And I will give a feedback saying what markers you hit, what's your strength as a coach, what did you do well, what could have been a great question to ask, what could you have looked at as an observational space. So you are learning in all the 8 sessions. So as a 4-member cohort, sometimes you have a choice to do 2 sessions of both of you. So you do a session once, and then during the journey again, after feedback, you do another. Or it's open to choose, saying you'll have 2 Q&A sessions like the one we are having today. And then 2 sessions where I am one time the coach, and another time we're talking about markers, we're talking about something else in detail. So it's open to the cohort. So since it's an 8-week program and 1.5 hours each week, I charge for it. So that's the space with coaching labs. And you can use that as your group mentoring hours if you're looking at possibly the space of using, say, 10 hours of mentor coaching for ICF. And since I am a mentor coach with a valid PCC and an active PCC, you can still use it as your hours. So that's the space with labs. And we've had 3 labs so far. So around 11 people will be graduating this July 5th. And 11 people will complete that labs. And then basically it's completely helped their coaching, move it forward. That's like I said, like by 50 hours, start getting mentored. Because you don't have to do everything yourself and figure it out, because that's a waste of time. And I know so many coaches who get to a certain point and then come to a mentor and then realize, oh, right now, whatever I'm doing, I will not pass the ICF exam. Or I've been doing things very differently and possibly not in the right order of doing things. It's not helping the client because of the way I'm doing it. For you to then change and get to a certain point, you will waste time, you will waste money, you will waste energy. Right? So as much as possible, come to mentoring at, say, a quick stage of PCC, possibly around 150 hours to 200, for ACC 50 hours.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, thank you. It makes sense actually, and quite fair enough to pay for these services and be in the cohort, and actually, well, it's for your own development, right? What time do you usually meet?
Same timeline, like half an hour before this timeline. So for me, it's 7:30. So usually we meet at 7 o'clock to 8:30 in the night, India time. So that's one of the labs. And then I'm also experimenting with another lab that's slightly earlier. So possibly India time 4:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. So this month, by 26th, I'll be launching one on Wednesday. And then July 12th, I will launch another one that's Friday, same timeline, 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. So
okay, how can I join if I decide to?
Yeah, so you can let me know and I'll send you the details as to where you
Okay.
And then that's about it.
Okay.
So I'll send you the Zoom
Okay,
link.
great.
And the logistics is part. So if you expression of interest and then the payment, and that's it, we're done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Follow-up coming, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. So you can also get a space of what happens in the labs this next Monday and the next Monday later. So I'm putting in 2 demo sessions as to what happens, so that you will jump in just like that, saying, "Hey, I will get mentored." So you get a taste of what happens, and then you jump in.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And so Manoj, I think, has raised his hand. So Manoj, will take your question and I'll close because I have another
I
meeting.
know it's a bit late, but just a quick question, Basically, for the new coach, what is the ideal way to advertise, and that how can people come to know about my services? But I'm not from this background. I'm from business background. So can you just give us some ideas that?
I think at any place, wherever you're going, you can always advertise. Jugaad space. You have a T-shirt that says "I'm a coach." Contact me. Post it on your LinkedIn. Make as many posters as possible. Post it on your WhatsApp. Put it on social media like Instagram, etc. Make a card. Give it to people in your network. There are multiple ways in which you can do it. And the more visible you are, the easier it is for people to find you and actually say, I want to get coached by you. A lot of the times I've got clients from LinkedIn purely because of the conversations or the messaging and the posts that I keep writing on LinkedIn. So I don't write only about coaching, I write about everything else, but it's people have to see that you exist, right? So branding, networking, putting yourself out there can happen in multiple ways. And there's no set way saying this is how you should start. LinkedIn, social, Facebook, Instagram, Google page. So all those websites, all those act as easier ways for you to start. And there are some that are paid, some that are free, some that are, you'll have to figure out what works for you. So all that is part of how you start. Okay, so
in the medical field, like contact the hospitals and doctors. People need not counseling per se, but help. So is that an avenue?
Yeah, you can. The thing is, it will depend on who you are talking to, whether they understand what coaching is. It'll also depend on you saying, hey, what is coaching, and say what's the ROI that somebody gets out of coaching. If you're able to articulate that, then why not? Why not make that space? You need to be clear about what is coaching and what coaching is not. And they need to be also clear as to what coaching is and what coaching is not. And then, possibly do a demo, whatever. Take it forward. I think right now that's the advantage. Nobody says you can't, no sector is not open for coaching. All sectors are open for coaching. And that's the advantage new coaches have, because established coaches have already set it up saying, I'm only a leadership coach. This is where the big money is. I'll only do work with that. And as a young coach or as a new coach, you always have the opportunity of going into areas that others haven't tapped on. If you have a network, use it. Yeah. Okay. So
thank you.
Fantastic. Then, so I think we have overshot time.
Yes.
Supposed to. Yeah.
So are we going to have more series on these?
We can always. So I generally do a Q&A once a month, once in 45 days. So we can actually get a lot of these questions picked up, and then we can do it. And if there is a need to do it for a certain, say, a sector of coaching or certain experience levels in terms of hours of coaching, if the need is expressed in the group or needs expressed to me, I'd be happy to do a session.
Yes.
That is the thing. So people have
Thank you so much, Sunil, for doing this.
Sorry?
Thank you so much for honoring me by doing this.
Yeah, I think thank you for actually making it happen. You're giving me the idea and, this manifesting. So, yeah. And then if you're not part of the group already, I think I don't think Aramita is part of the group already. So if you're not part of the group, do let me know. It's only a call away. If you're only a call away, and then after that, I'll add you to the group, and I think that should do it.
Aramita and Meenakshi were having a one-to-one coaching session. I made them cancel their pure coaching. I said, come here and learn something, then you coach.
No, it was very enlightening. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I think there are more lives like this. The more questions you have, the better it is that you come, ask, get your questions answered. You don't need to stay with your questions. I think that's there. And you also get a new perspective. And not all things that I've said may work out for you. You will have to find solutions that work out for you. And that's coaching, right? So whatever works for you, it works for you. So happy to help at any point of time. Done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.